Hey guys, welcome to the show, The Hype Mind. My name's Daniel, and I am with Bear.
What up, everybody? What up? Welcome back. Oh man, I think I start every episode with. We'll have to count. Anyway,
Um,
we're both pretty familiar with this topic, and I want to throw it out there to gain some clarity because I know when it was introduced to me, I was a little confused. I was like, these kind of contradict each other. Like, what's going on? Um, so what we're going to be talking about is what it means to be a nice guy versus what it means to be a nice person. And they're actually very different because one applies to like your romantic relationships, if you're a guy in the dating world meeting women, and the other applies to you as a human being, um, interacting socially with everybody, not for reasons of romantic interest. So yeah, there's a difference. That's the first place to start, is to see that there is that difference, because you hear it a lot of times when you go to dating coaches or watch stuff like that or read books related to that. And men and women alike who are coaches, life coaches, dating coaches, whatever, they're always like, oh, you can't be a nice guy. Women don't want a nice guy. Nice guys finish last, stuff like that, right? But then you also hear the flip side, which is like, I wouldn't even say hear, I would say see. You see the flip side, which is people appreciate and respect nice people, people who are nice individuals, right? People who are generous and charitable and have emotional control in the sense that they don't lose their temper, or if you hit them with your car, they, remain calm, right? That's a nice person. But there, again, this is where we're talking about the difference. There is a difference between being a nice guy that relates to relationships versus a nice person, which is someone who essentially has emotional control and um, overall good characteristics that they live by.
mhm. Right. Huh. You know, being a nice guy, I think it's like, I mean, when you say it, be a nice guy versus a nice person, you say, what's the difference? Well, the difference is you know, uh, the
What you're applying
like,
it to.
yeah. Well, no. The difference seems to be the gender, right? You have a nice guy, which is, clearly a guy, and a nice person could be a guy or girl. Anyways, I think I would replace being a nice guy with being a needy guy, because it seems like a nice guy is someone who is
I like where you're
right,
coming from.
and uh and does things out of like want need somebody, right?
I think the two
And
go hand in hand really closely. What we'll do is we'll break them, we'll separate them and break them down, right? I
uh,
think what you pointed out there is important to notice, that the difference is essentially to be a nice guy, to be a nice person is who you are, right? If you're a nice person, you're a nice person. That's your characteristic. That's awesome. But essentially it's how you treat everybody. Versus being a nice guy is how you treat someone that you are pedestalizing, so to speak, someone that you want.
mhm.
And so it's now you're not treating that person like you treat everybody else. Because if you're a nice person and you're naturally generous and charitable and kind and patient and whatever, um, then you treat everybody that way. But when you're a nice guy, you're just treating one person that way to, become their favorite or get their attention or get special treatment or gain something from it. And that's also a key word, is you're seeking to gain in that case. Being a
Right.
nice guy, you're seeking to gain rather than give. If you're a nice person, you're usually seeking to give.
Right. Yeah.
But I think, well, let's delve into the whole nice guy scenario, right? I would say that relates much more closely. It's going to be a one-on-one, you know, usually a romantic interest. Um, Although I guess you could use it again. The big difference is
Right.
it's
Unless
about
it
getting.
could
It's
be
about
it's a
getting.
relationship that they have something that you need,
Yes. So it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic, but typically it's romantic because what do people want most
Romantic
is
relationship.
connection and you know, a partner and stuff like that, sex, whatever. Um, but again, it's the big difference is you're seeking to gain rather than to give. And right there in the seeking to gain is what you just mentioned. The neediness part is you can't, you're failing to control your desire to gain, which is not good. And that right there is a demonstration of neediness. It's a dependency, maybe even codependency. Um, it stands out much clearer when you bring it into light and you look at it and dissect it a little more like we're doing.
Right. Well, I think something to address real fast is that, like, being a needy person, being a nice guy, like, pushes others away. Because, like you said, you're there to take, right?
Yeah, it's about you.
Yeah,
It's
right. No,
selfish inherently, even if you don't think so.
it's logical. Like, why would I be a friend with somebody who just wants to take from me instead
Well,
of just add to me?
and the deceiving thing is that it can look like you're not because you'll give everything you have to that person, but you're
Right.
doing it out of need. You're doing it to
Need or
gain them.
insecurity. Yep.
So while it looks like you're being self-sacrificing, you're actually doing it to fill a need, which you actually could control and don't need. But
Mm-hmm.
the the mirage or the illusion is it's a sacrifice of yourself, which it is, but
Yeah.
it's to gain. So it's still inherently selfish, even if you think it's selfless.
Right. Comes across that way. Well, yeah, and it like I said, it pushes others away. But something I want to say too is that it I want to look at the root, because you could say, okay, this pushes people away, being a needy person. But if you think about it, it's like, what's the root of the problem? Is that you are someone that is trying to depend on someone else. You're someone who is looking for someone else to fill your own needs.
I was
Really,
just gonna say you're looking to fill something.
yeah, exactly.
You're lacking. Or you
When
have a belief that you're lacking, whether you are
Yep,
or not.
yep.
Yeah.
And so if you want to fix that, it's like you have to be someone who's independent, who doesn't need to rely on somebody else, who doesn't, who's able to be alone, right? Who doesn't need somebody else, who fills their own needs first so they can be a nice person and add to somebody else, and
Right.
just not just take, but also give. When I hear this talked about, you've probably heard it before. When you're in a relationship, you want to be the complement of the other person, right? You want to complement each
Opposite. The
Right,
complementary opposite.
exactly. And
Yeah.
you complement each other by adding to each other.
Right.
Fill your own needs first so you can add to each other. Don't have your partner be, your therapist, or like do everything for you. I was just talking to this older lady, and she jokingly said, she was talking about her husband. Well, she's talking about dying. She's like, if I was gone tomorrow, I don't know what my husband would do. He doesn't even know how to write
Yikes.
his own checks. And it's like, even it's simple, like simple stuff like that. It's like, learn to be independent and learn to do that yourself,
But but to some degree I would argue that's okay because there's gonna be things that you can do that they can't and things that they can do that you can't. And it's not all of it's gonna be specific to your gender.
Right.
Like okay, maybe checks isn't a good example. I think both people should be able to write a check, but like you know,
Right. Yeah, maybe not every
ultimately the man is the provider in traditional roles and the woman is the nurturer. So and that's more biological, more gender associated, but to some degree the man's going to be the one who goes and mows the lawn and the wife actually might not know how to use a tractor. I would hope it's hard to say because
Hmm.
I would hope that they're
Yeah,
intelligent enough to sit
that'd
down
be
on the
cool.
tractor and know how to turn a key. But at the same time, I'd also be like, if you're not mechanically inclined, you're just not mechanically inclined. So it's not the end of the world.
Right. Right, right,
So,
right. Right. But especially for emotional needs and connection, your partner shouldn't be the only source.
right.
And
Yeah.
and you should learn how to be alone. You should learn how to be independent. So you can go into a relationship and actually give rather than depend on them, and
Right.
and then try to stop yourself from this needy behavior, which is coming from the root of the problem, is that because you're not, you haven't filled your needs first.
Yeah. You're
So
not whole, or you are whole and you don't believe you're whole,
you
which
know
is
what?
ultimately
Yeah.
a lack of self love.
No, you should. Let's say, if they leave, if your partner leaves or dies, like, you should be the same. You should, you could feel sad, but like, in the scheme of things, everything should be the same. You should be okay because you should never rely on them to fill all your needs, especially emotional needs.
I'd have to think about that one.
I don't think people should rely on other people.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
if you lose your loved one, I would say you shouldn't experience heartbreak because
I
you
think
didn't
you should,
really
yeah,
lose them for a bad reason. So, like, if you're that connected that you experience heartbreak, I would say you might have to check yourself. But but you should definitely, I would definitely mourn, and I would imagine the
right.
grieving process would be quite a long time, depending on how long you've been with that person. Um, so to some degree, I don't know what degree you meant it to. I would agree, but it'd also be. I'd expect there to be quite a lot of emotional pain,
Yeah.
but you should
No, I'm
still be
not
able to
saying
go
there's
through. You
none.
shouldn't be
Right.
depressed and not
Right.
able to function,
Right. Exactly. Your
like
life
what
should
you see
not
with a
fall
lot of
apart.
breakups.
Right. It should. Yeah. Exactly. You shouldn't be that your life should be, shouldn't completely be torn apart because they're not in your life anymore.
Yeah,
You should be able to have your own, and you should have mostly your own independent life where you go out and do your own things, and and you fill your needs, and you're not relying on your partner to do that for you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and then the other half is essentially you're giving. As a nice person, you're a giver. You're and maybe you're not doing a good job of it, right? But you're attempting to live in a way where you're accepting of everything, you're flexible, you understand things change, you do your best to do all those at any rate. You do
Right.
your best to control your emotions, to understand and put yourself in other people's shoes, to be charitable, to help people out when you can, or and maybe it's not going to be perfect, like
Right.
you're not going to nail all those on the head, and some days you won't nail any of them on the head, but like if you're attempting to live like that, you're a nice person. But the difference is you're looking to give, even if you're not looking very hard, you're still attempting to give, and you're also treating everybody the same. You're not pedestalizing one person, you're not giving only to one person, you're seeking to give back to everything around you in the world.
Hmm. Yep. And in order to do that, you need to be able to. In order to do that efficiently and effectively, you need to take care of your own needs first.
Yeah. And that's another important thing is you probably have or are taking care of your own needs if you're doing those things. To some degree, you're probably either on your way there or like hitting the minimum for taking care of your needs, etc. if you're able to like live like that to some degree. So that's good. Keep it up.
Right. This is no excuse to be mean.
That's true.
Yeah. When they say don't be a nice guy, doesn't mean be a mean guy. Just don't you don't need to, or don't pedestalize, like you're saying, and don't bend over backwards. Be firm in your beliefs. Um,
Right. I mean, one of the things that comes to mind when you talk about being a nice person and not being a nice guy is living in a state of love, right? And like, I think that gets misunderstood because what does it look like to love? Well, yeah, you're going to do a lot of nice things for people. You're going to help people. You're going to do a lot of nice things for yourself, right? And I don't mean nice things like buy a car. I mean nice things like greet people, smile at people, make eye contact, shake hands, open doors, like whatever. Like You know,
Hmm.
you're going to be polite. You're going to have manners. Um, but one of those big differences is to live in a state of love where you're uh, portraying love and demonstrating love also means you're gonna say no, because to love someone is to will the good of the other, and if what they're doing is bad, you're gonna tell them that. You're gonna tell them that in a loving way, but you're not gonna tolerate it, right? Because
Hmm.
what
Amen.
our culture kind of misconstrues is that love means complete and total self-sacrifice, which is not true at all.
Yeah.
You know, it, if someone buys you a cookie, you don't owe them anything, right? Well, if you loved me, you'd have given me a cookie back. Nonsense. You appreciate it. Maybe you express your gratitude. Or if someone gets angry at you, and you have every right to be angry, or what, whatever. You don't to demonstrate love doesn't mean to completely throw away your boundaries. You still have to hold your boundaries.
Hmm.
Even if
Right,
someone's
right,
like,
right.
well, I was nice to you, it's like, no, no, no. And the loving thing is to be nice to me. Nonsense. The loving thing is to respect my own boundaries and respect yours, but not, you know, not to the point where respecting yours compromises mine. Well, the loving thing would be to go to church with me, at whatever church I go to. Well, I don't believe in that religion. Well, then you don't love me. Nonsense. Of course you love them. Of course you care about them, but you're not going to jeopardize your own beliefs if you're a firm believer in this or that or something else.
If someone's like that to you,
Gaslighting,
yeah, and
right?
they they're being needy, right? You
Yeah.
need you to do these things for them to, make them feel your love, So,
Well,
anyway, I don't know where I heard this. I heard it somewhere, but it was, "Don't let kindness turn into weakness."
that's a good one. That's a good one.
It'd
And
be
that's what
fun,
you
right?
see with a nice guy. Is if you're a nice guy, you're letting kindness turn into weakness. You're completely self-sacrificing everything for one or two people and throwing everything out, and you becoming weak, which is why it's not attractive. Um, the other thought I had was, oh boy,
That's right. You think
yeah,
about it. I got something to add. No, it's something you said about appreciation. You can appreciate someone's gift, but you can appreciate it even more when you're independent. If someone, let's say, if someone cooks you a meal and you don't have to cook, or you don't cook for, you don't know how to cook for yourself, right? You're dependent on your partner cooking you meals. When they cook you a meal, you're less appreciative than if you usually cook your own meals and then they go out of the way to cook a meal for you. You appreciate it because you could have done it yourself, and
yeah,
it becomes a gift instead of a uh, like obligation or something like that. Because in
right,
relationships, it's like, okay, fill this role, fill this role. It's like, no, it's like, just take care of our own needs, and then our will add to each other's lives by giving each other gifts.
well, yeah, what we have to offer at the table,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not just
um,
for chores or whatnot.
yeah. The thought I was going to share was one of the reasons it's good to be a nice person, and again, you're in the state of giving, but you're able to give because you've already given yourself. You've already done, which we kind of touched on, you've already done a good job to some degree of doing what you need to do for you, on a loving level. And I was going to go further with that, but it ran away, so whatever. Anyway, that's a good place to wrap up.
All right.
Any final thoughts?
Good. No, it's all of them.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
All right,
Peace. Let us
guys.
know what you think in the comments.
Peace.